Hello everybody and welcome to this introduction to the GCSE 91 Maths course with me, Melissa Lieberman. So you may have watched some of these webinars before, you may have watched some of the recorded versions, but this is the first one and it's really just an introduction to the course. I'm not going to be teaching any maths, I'm just going to be giving you a guided tour of the ICS Learn Student Community. There's a lot there and it can seem very overwhelming when you first start. So I just want to make sure that you understand how it all works so that you can get the best possible experience from your course. Now, everyone is different, so some people will find some resources more useful than others, and you need to find what's right for you. First of all, there's a huge difference in level across the GCSE maths course. Some people starting might already be quite confident with maths, and other people might not have done maths for years and years. So anyone watching live, if you're feeling brave, let me know how long it is since you last studied maths. So you don't need to, tell me that if you don't want to, but it'd be quite interesting just to know. So Kelly, 21 years, wow. So probably you've got a feel for what maths is and what it is that you're going to have to study on this course, but it will just take you a little bit longer to get back into it all. But hopefully you'll enjoy it. That's the main thing. If you don't enjoy your studies, you're going to find it really hard to have that motivation to go on and complete the course. So I'm here to try to make it as helpful and as enjoyable as possible, and these webinars will take place hopefully twice a week, so that you can come along live or you can watch the recorded versions, and it will feel a lot like being in a classroom. It's not so much like a video, it's really like a live classroom experience, so students can chat to me there. Elliot's having problems with his sound there. I don't know what to say to help Elliot if you're not working. I'll maybe try and sort you out in a minute. So I can get interrupted by people. I'll try to keep on track, but Joanne doesn't want to give an exact date, but just says that it's longer than Kelly. So don't worry, you're in good hands. Even if it's a really long time since you studied maths, and we have lots of students that are in this similar position to you, that haven't studied in a really long time, but still get very good results on the course. Just have to be quite motivated. So I'm Melissa. I think I've probably mentioned that already. I'll introduce myself and the other tutors on the course in just a moment. Now, on that slide, you can see my contact details. That number will call me direct in the ICS Learn office. If I'm not there, you can leave me a message, but you won't go through anyone else. It will just come through to me at my desk, so you can call me on that phone number. It's free from a landline, and you can call me most days during office hours, so Monday to Friday, roughly 9 until 5 or whenever I'm working. You can also email me, mathsteacher@icslearn.co.uk. So if you use that email address, that will go straight to me. Ben, you're studying maths now in the IB. I'm not quite sure what IB is. And I'm edgy of juggling work and studies. That's always a hard juggling act, but as long as you're well organised and you plan for when you want to study, then it should be manageable. I've got lots of successful students from last year. So today, as I said, I'm just going to introduce you to the course. Here's an overview of what I am going to cover. So if you're watching the recorded version of this, you get to just skip through. So if you don't want to watch all of it, you can just use the boxes, the navigation boxes on the page, to just click through to the bit that you want to watch. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, this will be a little bit boring for the people watching live, is how to watch the recorded version of this session. I'm going to introduce you to some of the tutors on the course, talk about how to contact us, which is really important. You're paying for unlimited support, so it's really important to keep in touch and ask for help whenever you need to. I'm going to share my desktop and show you some of the various elements of the ICS Learn Student Community. Recommended resources, so that's things like what you might need to buy before you start the course. Calculators, if you want to get any textbooks. You shouldn't need to, but if you do, then I've got some I'll recommend. Different routes that you might take to work through the course, how to go about booking your exams, and I'll also talk a little bit about how the new 9 to 1 GCSE maths will be assessed. It's no longer on a A, B, C, D, E grade. It's now 9 is the highest, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 at the bottom. So fantastic, Elliot's got his sound on, just noticed that message. Guys, for you watching live, feel free to interrupt me, type in the box. I will keep my eye on the chat box as I go through. So don't just anything you want to ask, just type in there. Okay, so don't worry if you're watching live. If you're watching the YouTube recording of this session, the first thing I'd like to ask you to do is make sure that you watch it in full screen. It's not so important for this webinar, but when you're watching the maths ones later on, some of the writing is very small, so a lot of people just are in the habit of not using the full screen view, but I think that's quite important. You'll get a nice high resolution image there. And you might notice that as I go through, I paste links into the chat box. If you're watching live, and we'll test this in a minute, any links that I paste into the chat box are active, so you just click on them and that link will just open automatically in another window. If you're watching the WebEx version, that will also work, so you can just click in the chat box and open that. But if you're watching on YouTube, I can't activate those links, so you need to go to the bit that's underneath the video and click on Show More at the bottom of the screen. And that will give you a drop-down window, and then you can just click on all of the links there that I put in, and you can go through them like that. Now, if you're watching the streamed WebEx recording of this, you'll know if you are, because when you clicked on the link, it will have a little button going like that, and it will say WebEx, and you'll see all of these panels are movable down the right-hand side of your screen. When I'm doing this, there's probably a mirror image. You'll think I'm probably on that side. So the first thing you must do if you're watching the WebEx version is you have to open the chat box. It doesn't open automatically. So go to the very top of the page, the menu bar, click on View, you'll get a drop-down menu, click Chat, and then you'll be able to see all of the hyperlinks and all of the chat through the session. And you should also be able to see a little icon there above the chat box. I think it goes red when there's a message. So click on that and that will open up. Also be aware, if you're watching the interactive WebEx version, that all of these windows can be dragged around. So if you don't want to watch the video, you can just close that box, you can turn it off. You've got the participant list, close that off. So anything that's in the way, you can move around and drag along around the screen. If you are watching a recording from before and you just want to go through the slides, you don't want to watch all of the video, a quick tip is to use the table of contents. So if you click the slides in the table of contents, you can just go through the whole webinar like a slideshow. You can close off the video. You don't need to listen to me explaining through everything. You can turn that off and just watch through the slides and make notes as you watch. So that's a very good tip if you're watching the WebEx version. How do you know whether you're watching the WebEx version or the WebEx version or the YouTube version? Well, when you go to your GCSE 91 Math Lessons page and click on the lessons recordings, which is at the bottom of the page, all of these links in the table are the WebEx recordings. Now, last year when I recorded them, they had passwords, so you need to put the password in. But this year I'm not going to be using passwords, so you'll know the difference between one that I've done recently, one that I did last year, because it may or may not have a password. So from now on, there won't be passwords. So this list will slowly change as I replace these webinars with a more recent version. If you're having trouble watching the WebEx versions, then you can watch the lessons on YouTube. And the way that you do that is either click on this link to go to the playlist for that particular unit, or you can download the study plan, and that has got direct links in it as well to the YouTube versions of each lesson. Okay, so to download the study plan, which has links, please do this as soon as you start the course. Go to your GCSE 91 Maths Lessons page, click on Download the Study Plan. Well, there's a link underneath as well, and that will give you a study plan like this. Now, this is just a snippet of it. It's just Unit 1. There are 4 units in the course altogether. Unit 1 really focuses on grades 1 to 3, so everything up to about a grade D. If you're very confident with maths and you want to skip over that content, then just go straight to test paper 1, complete it, write it all out, upload it, send it to your tutor. When your tutor marks it, it will release your Unit 2 materials and you go straight on to Unit 2. So we're not saying you have to spend 3 months doing Unit 1. Spend as long as you need to. If you want to progress through more quickly, you can go straight to the end of unit test paper and go on to the next unit. Unit 2 covers roughly around grade 4 content, so an old GCSE grade C. Unit 3, which now has to be completed by foundation tier students, so even if you're doing foundation tier, foundation and higher, will need to do Unit 3. Grade 5, roundabout an old GCSE grade B. And then Unit 4, higher tier only, so you only do that. I'll talk a little bit more about foundation and higher tier in a minute. So if you want to do the higher tier exam papers, if you want to achieve more than a grade 5 in your final exam, then you have to also do Unit 4. So Unit 4 is an optional unit, but everyone has to do 1, 2 and 3. Possibly if you're a Unit 4, a higher tier kind of student, you could spend a lot less time on Units 1 and 2. So it's very flexible and you work through at a speed that suits you. If you print out the study plan, you'll notice that there's boxes here, empty boxes, you can print it out. Write in your when you plan to complete that particular lesson. Please try to do at least 1 or 2 lessons every week. So if you're doing foundation tier, there's 50 lessons, so 1 lesson a week would take you a year. Do it a bit faster than that. Don't spend too long on any one area, even if you don't fully understand it. If you're not sure about an area, so if you find multiplying and dividing fractions really hard, then just tick the little, I should put on a better pen tool. Let me just change that to a nice blue pen. So you can tick that. You're not very happy with that, and that way you know that that's an area that you need to go back to later on. If you're in a school or college, the teacher wouldn't wait for you. They would just carry on teaching all the way through. So you need to impose that on yourself. Do as much as you can. If you don't understand it, get help with your tutor. Do as much as you can and then move on to the next thing. Otherwise, you'll fall behind. So I think that's quite important, is to make sure you don't spend any more than about 4 or 5 hours on each of these sections. So okay, so do download the study plan. Now I'm going to introduce you very quickly to myself and the other maths tutors, give you a little bit of our background. Now, I am a fully qualified maths teacher. I did a maths degree, and then after my maths degree, didn't really know what to do next. At the age of 21, there I am, graduating in 1995. I went on to the PGC and trained to be a secondary school maths teacher, and I've mostly taught GCSE and A-level in secondary schools, but I've also spent a really long time working in educational publishing. I used to work for a company called Boardworks and produce resources for interactive whiteboards, and I've also been working for ICS Learn for a long time, about 4 and a bit years. You can look me up on LinkedIn. There's some more information about me if you're really interested, but that's my background anyway. And then I work for ICS Learn. I work full-time in the ICS Learn office, unlike our other tutors who are based remotely, and you contact them through the student community, but you can contact me directly. We also have Ian Howie as one of our tutors. If you've recently started, you should have received an email from either Ian Howie or Stephen Mathers, and they are contactable on the course page. I'll show you how to do that in a minute using the contact your tutor box. So if you've received a message from Ian or Stephen, I would suggest getting back to them. Now, all 3 of us have been teaching for over 20 years, so we're all very experienced as a team. Ian, I think, is actually now retired, and he lives in Stirlingshire, but he's got background in teaching maths and engineering. He's also a tutor on our A-level maths course, and if you're going on to do A-level, we'll probably have Ian as your A-level tutor. We also have Stephen. Stephen works full-time in a school in Belfast, a very nice Irish gentleman. I haven't spoken to him for a little while, but I seem to remember he had an Irish accent. If you want your tutor to phone you, if you have anything that you want to discuss with them, you can ask them for a phone call. The way that you would do that is to go to your ICS Learn Student Community, click on the main maths course page, click on Contact Your Tutor at the top, and that way you can ask your tutor a question. I'll show you how to do that in more detail in a moment. So, and he also works as, I think he's head of Year 7. He was head of Year 7 last year. I don't know if he's still head of Year 7 this year. That probably needs updated. So you'll either have one of those 2 gentlemen as your tutor, and your tutor will be the one who's answering any questions on the Contact Your Tutor link, and marking any test papers that you send in. But I'll talk to you a little bit more about that as we go through. If you need to contact us, please do so at any time. My contact details I gave you at the start of the session. To contact your tutor, there's a Contact Your Tutor link like this. You can also talk to other students or contact me using any of these student forums. Not the news forum, you can't type on there. That's for people at ICS send that message. But you can go to talk to other students. You can go to exam discussion. You can go to ask a maths teacher if you're on the GCSE maths course to send a message as well. And if it's not anything to do with maths, if it's something that's not academic, maybe you're having difficulty using the student community, maybe your tutor hasn't got back to you, maybe you're falling behind with your payments, then you call ICS Learn Student Services. And you can find their details on any page on the ICS Learn Student Community. Just scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page and you'll see those details there. I'll show you in a sec when I share my desktop. So here's our typical student's login page. So if you just give me a moment, I'm just going to log in as a student, and I'll share that with you, and that way we can have a look at what a student will see in real time. So first I'm going to share my desktop, so you'll see the screen kind of flash a little bit, even those watching the recordings as I change to share my desktop view. So if you just give me a second, I will click that. Okay, that should be working now. If you're watching live, could you take your mouse, drag it to the very top of the screen. This is so you can open up the chat box and still ask me questions and talk to me. And just drag the mouse to the very top of the screen, click on chat, this little speech bubble. When you've done that, just say okay or yes in the chat box, and that way I know that the chat box is on and you can still ask me questions if you need to. I'm just going to move these chat panels out of the way. Kelly, you've opened it. Good. Hope everyone else has managed to open that chat box. Audrey, you got it. Lewis, fantastic. Elliot, you've got it. Good. Everyone. All right, I'll assume everyone will figure it out. So just drag the mouse to the top, click on chat, and that will open up the chat box so you can still ask me questions. Okay, I'm just going to log in. So this is just a live page. Please make sure that you save the community.icslearn.co.uk address to your favourites so that you visit the ICS Learn Student Community on a regular basis. As I mentioned before, I'm just going to open my annotation tools where I can annotate here. I probably don't need to, but ICS Learn details are at the bottom of every page when you go to the ICS Learn Student Community. Oh, I don't know how I managed to change that to blue. It's normally red. So you can get those details there from the login screen or any page that you're on the student community. So, oh, how do I turn this off? That's a bit of a problem. Okay, I'm going to log in. Now, ignore all of this stuff at the top of the page. Scroll down. So here we're logged in as a student. Elodie, and you've got these 3 sections. Excuse me, I'm just going to cough. should have been the chat box closure. You're here now, though. So these are, if you're just doing GCSE maths, you'll just see these 3 sections. If you're doing other courses, they'll be there as well. That's probably the easiest way. You can also get into your different courses using this navigation box here. So you'll see all of your courses that you're enrolled in on there. And you can also click on these to get into the various courses. So there's a small difference. The GCSE maths lessons page is just where you'll find all of the links and resources to do with these maths lessons. The GCSE mathematics with that strange code on the end is where you'll find your course resources, the contact your tutor link, also all of your interactive activities that you can work through to practice each of the sections. And let me just click on that to show you. Now, this student has some unread messages. If you click on those, and you can see any conversations that you've had with your tutor. There we go. That's how you contact your tutor. So if you want to contact your tutor, let's just go back to that main page. Click on this link. You can also request a phone call. Click on that link. Click on Add New Discussion. Give it a meaningful title so that when you look back at your messages later on, so help with algebra or something like that, or stuck on the textbook, page 52, be specific, because your tutor will need to know exactly what you're having problems with. If it's something that you can't type easily, you can attach a file. So if you take a photo of the question that you're working on, so I brought my books with me. So if you're working through this textbook, which you get an electronic version, luckily, because these books are really massive. Oh, nearly poked my eye out with that. Quite dangerous. So if you're working from a question in the book, you can take a screenshot or take a photo of the question, or take a photo of your working, press browse, attach that to your question, and that way your tutor will be able to easily see what it is that you're stuck on, especially if it's something like fractions, or you know, sometimes it's difficult to type maths or a graph or something like that. So if you can't type it, press browse, take a photo, attach that, and then you'll be able to send your question to your tutor. And if you want a phone call, just type in the box and say, "Hi Stephen," or "Hi Ian, please could you call me, this is when I'm free," and they will arrange with you for the best time to call you, if that's okay. Certainly, Kelly, you can buy a copy of the textbook. I'll give you a link to the textbook on Amazon in a minute. I've got a copy of that. This is what the student book looks like for foundation. Costs about, I think it's about £17 on Amazon, but £20 new. It is a massive book, but you get a free version of this, and I'll show you how to activate that in a moment. If you're going to buy something, I would recommend buying one of these books, which I'll show you in a minute. I don't know if you can see that clearly in the webcam, but these workbooks you can see are much thinner. This one for foundation is particularly useful because you can just write your answers in the spaces as you work through. It doesn't have any notes, but you can use the online lessons for those. So watch the online lesson, and then for practice questions, use this book. But I'll give you the link for that in a moment. Is that okay? Right, back to the main page. Other things. There's, this gives you an overview of the tutors if you're interested in that. There's my direct email there, so if you want to send me an email, you can just click on that link and it will just, in fact, I'll just click it there. I don't know if that will work, so I don't know if I've got Outlook installed here, but it will just open up in your email. You can send me a message. Do I want to exit? Yes. Or you can just go into the Ask a Maths Teachers forum and put a post on there. You can chat to other students on this one. This exam discussion, I use that for anything that I want to post about exams. So if you scroll down, you'll see there's links to mock exam papers. Lots of people pass their exams and posted it on there. Just scroll down and make sure that you read anything that looks interesting. Some of your answers to previous questions might already be on there. So anything to do with exams, talking about exams, if you want to look at mock exam papers, click on there. So that's your discussion forums. No one outside of the course can see your post, so it's not live on the internet. It will just be other GCSE maths students on the course and myself who will look at your posts. So you're in a safe environment. Some students find it helpful to keep a personal journal. It's completely optional. It's like a diary. So if you go in there, maybe you could plan to go on there once a month if you want to. Write down your motivations for doing the course, review it every month. For a lot of people, they find it very helpful to keep them motivated. No one's going to be looking at this either unless you ask them to. So if you want to keep a journal of your learning, you can store that there and revisit it. So if you lose motivation, you say, "Now, why was I doing this again?" Look back, see how you felt at the start of the course. And I think it's nice as well when you complete the whole course and you get your qualification to look back and see that journey. So you can use that. That's just a tool, but you don't have to unless you want to. And then we have your course and assessment guide. Now please read that when you start. This has got all of the key information for your course. There should be one of these on all of the courses you're enrolled on. Sometimes it's called a student handbook, and it just works like a book. You can see these arrows here, so I can work through the pages like that. You've got links to the specifications, so if you want to look at the specification for your course, you can do that using that link there. So if I click on that, it will take me to the specification page for EdXL, and there you can download the specifications, sample assessment materials, and so on. There's links across the top there. So use that link, which is in your course and assessment guide. I'm going to go back to the student community now. Hopefully you can see clearly what I'm doing. If you're watching the recorded version, you can pause there and watch it more slowly. And private candidate resource page there for booking your exams. I'll give you another link in a minute, which I think is better. But you can just go through student services, your tutor. You can go through that way as well, or just use these arrows. So read your course and assessment guide. It also has all of the exam codes, but I'll give you them as well in a minute for when you come to booking your exams. Now, student course resources in this section, if you scroll down, you've got the link to activate your textbook. So these big books that I just showed you, you get both of these. That's the foundation one. Oh, this one's even heavier. I don't think I can even lift it. I need to start weight training again. That's the higher tier one. That's how thick it is. Don't know how many pages, but you get these for free included in your course. Now, when you first start, you will need to set up your account, which is hosted on something called Vitalsouce. The answers to the books are here. So underneath, you've got the foundation tier answers and the higher tier answers. The books are very similar actually. Almost everything that's in the foundation tier book is also in the higher tier book, but the higher tier book has got extra content to cover those grade 6, 7, 8 and 9 topics that are only assessed at higher tier. So most people can just work through the foundation tier book even if they're planning to do higher. I think that would be the easiest option. And if you want more of a challenge, do the corresponding exercise in the higher tier book. To set up your textbooks, click on this link. Now this student has already set up the textbook, so I think if I click on this it will just take me straight into the textbook. But let's have a look at what you see when you go into the textbook. So it all looks a bit you can, this is just help thing. So when you set up your textbook for the first time, I'm just going to click. So watch what I do here. I'm just going to this table of contents. So you've got a menu bar there. I'm going to go back to the contents page there. So I can just click through like this. Well, it's far too big. So what you need to do, if the view is a bit big for you and you want to zoom out a little bit, notice that down the bottom you've got a resize text button. So it's like a capital A with a little a, and I can zoom out a bit there like that if I want to. So here is the content for the foundation tier book. Gives you a good overview. That's just one page. So scroll through the pages. You will have some little arrows either side here, so I can just use these little arrows to go through the pages. So the foundation tier book, which I've opened here, has got 38 chapters, and they cover everything up to a grade 5. But actually these textbooks are quite difficult, I think, and if you were good at everything in this textbook, you probably could get a grade 6 at higher tier, because it's quite the questions are quite difficult, which rightly so, because the new GCSEs are quite difficult and demanding. So these textbooks are not easy. You just go through like that. If you want to see the full size view, you can just go through. If you want to skip to something, so for example, if you want to do fractions, click on fractions there. I've still got the table of contents open. If you want to go to a specific exercise, so operations with fractions. So this interactive textbook is much easier, fit width, much easier than buying this book, which is massive and costs money. Start with the foundation tier book. If you want to open the higher tier book, let me show you. You just go to this library button in the top left-hand corner. Click on that, and there you'll see the two books, so you can compare them and see how different they are. That's the foundation tier book, and that's the higher tier book. And as I go through and teach the course, I will tell you which chapters in the book correspond to my lessons. I am not teaching the content of the book in order. I'm going to teach the course in the ICS Learn course study order. So I'm going to do, if you're at school, be a very bad teacher who just gave you a textbook and just taught the whole textbook from start to finish. They probably jump around inside the book. So the way we construct our courses, we're starting with the easier topics and we build on those topics to get through to the harder topics. So sometimes the content in the book won't quite match the content in my lessons, but don't worry about that. I am going to cover everything eventually, just not in the same order as the book. If you want the higher tier book, you can click on it here, foundation book here. If you save this link to your favourites, and I'm going to paste it in the box there. So once you've set up your textbook, you can use that link to just go straight to your bookshelf and then click on the book that you want to read through. And it will remember what page you were up to, and it will just take you straight to that page. Now, I'm going to come out of this now. If you're working through these exercises and you want to check your answers, can go back to the page there. The answers are there. So here's the answers to the foundation tier book. I'll just click on that. So that's just on your ICS Learn page, and you can go through, and as you work through any exercises from the textbook, you can check your answers in there. There's the foundation tier answers and the higher tier answers. The book also has a link at the bottom of each page. Let me just show you here. But you have to be a little bit careful, because if you use that link, so supposing you're working through the book, and you want to use that link to go through the answers. Oops, I don't think that copied across properly. Give me a moment, I'll see if I can get that to work. So I'm going to paste that in there. Oh, it's not pasting. Anyway, when you get it to work, I don't know why that's not copying for me. Maybe I should do it like this, copy. See if that works now. Well, it probably was blocking my clipboard. Okay, I think that should work now. There we go. So if you use that link there, this will take you to the publisher's page where you can get the most up-to-date answers. But notice that the first links on here are for the AQA student books, so you don't want those ones. A lot of people contact me saying that the answers are wrong. The one you want is the edXL. So if you are downloading it from that link, make sure that you download the edXL book answers, and you can just click on those links similarly to the same answer books as the ones that are on our page, and you can get the answers there. Okay, now if you want to watch the live online maths lessons, there's a link there to the online maths lessons page, and here also are links to all of the lessons for the whole course on YouTube. So if you are waiting for your tutor to mark your Unit 1 test and you want to move on to Unit 2, just watch the Unit 2 lessons on YouTube. So you can just click on it here. And it's a playlist, so you've got all of the lessons here in a playlist. So supposing I'm working on the book and I think, oh no, I don't know anything about bearings, maps and scales drawings, you can click on there. That will open up the lesson in YouTube. Sorry, I'm just going to pause that. So this is me as I probably looked a long time ago. Click on show more for all of the links underneath. And you can just go through all of the lessons in order, so all of the links here. When you're watching the live lessons, please write down everything. So I'll go through this when you watch the lessons, but you need paper, you need to make notes. You don't want to keep watching these lessons because they're all very long. Watch the lesson, make notes, and then use your notes for your studies. Okay, so but these will be the main source of information for getting through everything in the course. It is repeated within the course notes, but it's easier if you hear it explained out loud by a teacher, so you can use that. If you don't want to see me, you can just put it on mute and just fast forward through the slides if you prefer. Okay then, so let's go back. So that's where all of the links are to the online lessons if you want them. And then as you scroll down, we've got your actual course material. So the first lesson, which I'll be doing next week, is on calculations and whole numbers. I'll be covering negative numbers and BODMAS in the first lesson. And then lesson 3, I'll be covering squares roots. So I'll kind of be following these in order. But if you want extra practice questions, you just click into this content here, whole numbers, for example. No, I don't want to continue from where I started last time. But early in the course, there's videos. So if you need a lot more detail about adding and subtracting negative numbers, these are videos that you have in here that you can also play. You can enlarge that so you can make it bigger if you want to, and that will go into more detail if you need that. I mainly cover, there's some for fractions, some for negative numbers, things that people are always stuck on when they start the course. So make sure that you go through these, watch the videos, fill in your answers. You know, these are all very interactive. It doesn't get saved. You can do it as many times as you want. You can check your answers as you go through. So it's quite nice and interactive. Shows you how much you've completed. Go on to the next. You just work through those, and it's just a little interactive way. Let's have a look at what this one is. -2 plus -5 is the same as -2 minus 5, so I would drag that in there. And that's the same as, somebody tell me what that is. -2 minus 5 minus 7. That's a slow day for me today. I'm not in maths mode. So we've got little activities like that you can fill in for us. You know, you won't be able to learn everything in the course using these interactive lessons. I would recommend that you use them together with the textbook and together with the online lessons, and just use these for reinforcement or revision. When you've finished working through everything in Unit 1, it might take you a couple of months if you haven't done maths in a really long time. It might take you a couple of days if it's all things that are really familiar and you just need a quick revision. So when you finished Unit 1, at the very bottom, so I'm just going to scroll down here, there is a test paper. Now test paper 1 will test you on the Unit 1 content. If it's all easy and familiar, you can go straight to Unit 1 test. The way you complete that is you click on the test paper, print it out. If you don't have a printer, then you can just work off screen, write it all on paper though. So it's designed to be written on the test paper. So you print out the paper, fill it in. I don't want to show you too much. Fill it in. It works a little bit like an exam paper would. Scan it or take a clear digital photo of each page, and then when you've done the test, to go on to the next unit, let's just close this down. So as soon as you feel ready, do this test. Oh, I've closed that. And then click on Submit Assignment. Oh, you've got to say that, oh no, I don't want to do that just yet. You have to say that it's your own work. I don't want to send my tutor any work right now, so we just go on here. So Edit Submission, I think, was the one I wanted to do. So add file, attach your files, and then send them to your tutor. Make sure you submit assignment at the end. Your tutor will get an email to say that you've sent it. It doesn't count towards your final GCSE grade, but it's a really good way of saying that you've finished that section, so your tutor knows where you are, and getting some feedback and knowing what grade you're currently working at. Now, because Unit 1 only covers grade 1 to 3 content, even if you get everything right, you're only going to get a maximum grade 3 because it's kind of capped at that level. And as you work through, the tests get progressively more difficult, and you can see more or less what sort of grade level you're working at. So in theory, if you're only aiming for a new GCSE grade 4, which is equivalent to an old grade C, you could get that after the end of study unit 2. I would advise that you do as much of study unit 3 as you can as well to maybe get that grade 5. But you need to do it. The more you do, the better your grade will be. Okay, any questions about that? So that's about everything for the guided tour. You've also, of course, got your maths lessons page. I'm just going to go to it from here. And this is where you join the live sessions, where you get the schedules, and all links to all of the recordings. So there are links to recordings for everything in the course. Unit 1 is the introduction. Unit 2 builds on all of the content from Unit 1. So you don't have to do it in order. Supposing you were doing equivalent fractions and multiplying and dividing fractions where I don't cover mixed numbers, you wanted to carry on working on fractions, then you could just go through and you could watch the fractions and mixed numbers. So you don't have to have done everything in Unit 1 to go on and do any of the lessons from Unit 2. Just please feel flexible and work through it in the way that suits you best. And at the end of each unit, there's a test. So if you really want a very good mark, focus mainly on Units 3 and 4. You still need to know about Unit 1 and 2 to do Unit 3 and so on, but spend most time on the sort of the target area where it covers the grades that you want. So if you want more than a grade 5 and you're doing higher tier, spend most time on Unit 4. If you really want to get a grade 5 or 6, grade 5 mainly, focus on Unit 3 and so on. Okay, so that's your ICS Learn Student Community. I'm just going to stop sharing my desktop. I'm just looking at the time. It won't be too much longer. Go back to my slides. So what you will need, lots of paper. So I know you're working on a computer, but I think it's really important part of learning to write things down. So whether you're working from the textbook exercises, watching the lessons, or even the little interactive lessons, things that I showed you on the main course page, it's really important to make notes of everything that you're learning. Not only because it will help you to learn it, the act of actually writing it down in your own words, but also you can use it to revise. Because as you go through, so you might do fractions in September, and then in 3 months you're doing something completely different. You're doing area. You've forgotten all about fractions. You forget things very quickly, so it's important at the start of each new section to review regularly what you've done before, because there's just so much content that it's easy to forget things. So always check back over the things that you've done already to make sure it's still fresh in your mind. Lined paper is fine. You might need squared paper for graphs and coordinates, so if you can get hold of some lined paper, you can print lined paper on the internet as well if you need to, but you might need some squared paper, but mainly lined or plain paper should be fine. You will need a calculator. 2 of your exam papers are calculator papers, and it must be the same calculator that you use through the whole of your course. Now, if you don't have a calculator already, the best one is the Casio FX85 GT Plus or 83 GT Plus. I think the only difference between those 2 is one's solar and one isn't. You get them in different colours. I think it's only £5 on Amazon at the moment. Let me give you a link. The price changes all the time. Now, I'm just going to put a link to this calculator at the moment. This is a good time of year if you're watching this live in September. They tend to be on special offer this time of year. So let me put that link in there. If you want to test that link now, those of you watching live, click on it. Let me know if it opens up the calculator page on Amazon in a separate window. Yep, Tesco. If you're in the UK, WH Smith, Tesco's, Asda, all of the supermarkets, this is the calculator make that I use in all of my lessons. And it's best that I know that you can get apps and things like that on your phone, but you won't be allowed your phone in the exam. So the sooner you get used to using this kind of calculator, the better. There's certain quirks about it that you need to get used to. And it won't do the work for you. It's not cheating to use a calculator, and you can use a calculator unless it's obvious that you're using a technique that shouldn't use a calculator. You can use a calculator all the time. It's not cheating. In fact, if you were doing IGCSE, they don't have a non-calculator paper. So maths is not about doing hard sums. Let the calculator do the work for you. If something can't be worked out easily with a pen and paper method, then you should use a calculator. Geometry equipment, so you will need a protractor for measuring angles, a compass, a ruler. I'll show you the equipment that you need. So when you go into the exam, this is the equipment that you're expected to bring with you. For maths, to do a maths exam, you need a ruler that measures in centimetres and millimetres. You need a protractor to measure angles. You'll need a pair of compasses to draw circles, pen, HB pencil, an eraser, and a calculator. That's for the calculator paper. Obviously, if it's a non-calculator paper, you won't have that, but you will be expected to have all of that equipment and to bring it with you in the exam. So make sure that you have a geometry set. You won't need it for a lot of the areas, but sometimes you will need one. Now I'm going to give you links to where you can buy these books online if you want to. I know a lot of people don't like working off the screen. Don't buy both of them because, as I said, the higher tier book contains all of the content from the foundation tier book. Sorry, Ben, any type of calculator is not allowed. That's interesting. It has to be a scientific calculator. I don't think you're allowed to use a graphics calculator, for example. You can for A-level, but not for GCSE. You would have to check in the specification. They're purposely a bit vague in the specification, but I mean, any scientific calculator that you can buy in the UK should be fine for this level of math. Make sure it's got a sine, cos, and tan button. Make sure it's got a pi button. Make sure it's got powers, roots, all of those sorts of things. It should be okay. But that one does everything that you need it to do. If you want to buy the higher tier textbook, this one, it's just, you can tell, although I got mine, I've never used it because it's just really unwieldy. You use the free online version that comes with your course materials, but if you really, really want to have a copy of this book, buy one there. You don't need to though because it's included if you want to get the foundation tier version, which covers everything up to grade 5, which is like an old GCSE grade CB. That is there. So that's just links for you. If you're watching the WebEx version of this and you want to click on those, it will work if you open up the chat box. Make sure the chat box is open, click on that link and it will open in a new window. And if you're watching live, you can just click on it now and those will open up if you're interested in buying them. But better, I would say, than buying that textbook is to just get one of these revision guides. And I've got these, so if you're working through these and you want to ask me for help with anything, I've got copies here as well. So CGP are really good revision guides, really reliable. They've got a bit of a funny style. edXL do ones as well, so if you go down the shops, you see any revision guides, there's these ones. These are just revision guides. There's also exam practice workbooks, but maybe use those at the end when you're preparing for the exam. Better probably are these, if you can get hold of these ones, either in your local shop or I'll give you a link to Amazon. They have all of everything that's in the revision guide and all of the exam practice questions as well. So there's kind of 2 in 1. I think on Amazon you can get them for £1 or even a penny if you get used versions. You have to pay postage, but they're really, really good price. So definitely I would recommend getting one of these. I'm giving you links to both the foundation tier and the higher tier books here. Get one or the other, not both. It's not as if you would do the foundation and then the higher because there's so much overlap in content. Only get the higher tier one if you're aiming for a grade 6, 7, 8 or 9. If you only need up to a grade 4 or 5, just get the foundation. And these there's these workbooks. I haven't put a picture of the workbooks in there, that says there. So let me just show you again. If you are finding the questions in the textbook difficult, and they do stretch you and they are difficult, get this instead. So this is the one that I recommend. It's the foundation level workbook from CGP. It's got gaps in the questions, so you don't need any paper. You can just fill in the answers. I'll give you a link to Amazon because in Amazon, I don't know if you've seen this before, but there's a little arrow that says look inside, and you can actually look inside the pages of the book and it will show you how it's laid out. There's a higher tier version as well. The higher tier version doesn't give you spaces to write in your answers. You need to use paper, but it challenges you more and it's more difficult. So here is a link to the workbooks, and you can use those as you go through my lessons for extra practice. From now on, I'll try and link to the relevant sections in those books so you can go through and practice what you've learned. But if you had those two books together, then you could work through those if you want something paper-based to complement the textbook. The only reason I don't really recommend buying the textbook is because you have it for free already. It's expensive and it's big and it's hard to work through. It's hard to open the pages and things like that. Much better to get these. If you like something a bit more interactive, CGP also have this great thing called Maths Buster. Go and have a look. You do have to pay for it. I think they've got, let me just give you a link there. I really did need an hour, didn't I? So if you go and have a look at Maths Buster, it's got thousands of interactive questions. You type the answer in the box, it tells you whether you're right or wrong. It's got video tutorials. It really covers everything that you need to revise GCSE maths at either foundation or higher tier. You can get a demo version if you go on there. Loads of my students say this is brilliant. But you do have to pay for it. It costs about £12.99 or something, and you can either get it on a disc or you get a code and you just install it on your computer and you have access forever, so you can use that as well. I think actually these textbooks, if you buy them, also come with an online version so you can view it on screen. So they're really good. And those books cost about £5 or less if you get them used. That costs about £12 if you want to buy something. If you want maths videos, you can look them up on YouTube, but this Hegarty Maths is a very good source of maths videos. If your maths is very rusty, I would recommend going to their site. It doesn't cover everything in the new GCSE maths, it's mostly for the old course. If you go to, if you log in, so you need to log in first or register if you haven't done that already. And then you can either go to GCSE to go through all of the GCSE videos at higher or foundation tier, or you can go to Key Stage 3. Now, Key Stage 3 in the UK, if you didn't go to a UK school, is the stage before GCSE. So if you really want to go through all of the basics of maths, if you haven't done maths in a long time, have a look at the videos on there. He's won so many awards that they're really good. Now, it is his old site, and now you have to pay for the content, but these are all of the free videos are in there. So if you like watching video tutorials, that's highly recommended. And one more recommendation is Maths Genie. Now, their resources have also been redone for all of 91. If you let me just give you the link there. So if you're watching live, you can click on it and have a look. Oh, I haven't got it here. I haven't got it on my list of links. Let me just, I know I'm not showing my desktop anymore, I'm just going to find math. If you Google Maths Genie, that's all I'm doing now. Okay, I'll take you to the GCSE page. Now, Maths Genie has got revision videos for every single topic. It's got exam-style questions and solutions that you can download for every single topic. And another very nice feature is they're ordered in grade areas. So the ones at the top are grades 1 and 2, so that's all the easy stuff. Then you've got grade 3 content, grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, and then the last bit at the bottom is for grade 8 and 9. So you can work through those materials in order, and they get more and more advanced as you go through. And I link to these often at the end of each of my live online lessons. So that's my last recommendation. Any questions, or if you have anything that you would like to recommend, if you found a resource that's very useful, please do share. You can go onto the GCSE Maths Lessons page, or either of the pages actually, and talk to other students and let them know what you found helpful. Or send me an email and I'll share it with other students. Talk to other students. Now, often a lot of people say to me, there's so much stuff there. How do I work through everything? How do I cover everything? Well, I'm going to give you 3 routes. The route that I would really recommend for most students is, I'm not just saying this because they're my lessons, but I think the easiest way to work through is the way that you would in a school or college. You would go to your school or college, you would have a teacher teach you some content, then you would do some work in class, and then you would do some work as homework afterwards. I think that is the best way to work through the materials. Try to do 1 or 2 online lessons a week. Make notes as you watch. My lessons do cover more than a lesson at a school or college would cover, so if it takes you a week to work through the content of 1 lesson, that's absolutely fine. Take the amount of time that you need. So the first, I'm just going to rub that out. So the first way that I would recommend to cover everything in the course is work through the online lessons in order. The easiest way to do that is to download the study plan and use each of the links in there, or scroll down to the bottom of the page and just work through all of the lessons in order, make notes, do some practice questions until you get to the end. If you're much more confident with maths and you don't like watching videos and you don't want to hear me speak, that's absolutely fine. I won't be offended. You can just go to the GCSE maths page. Now, you won't be able to use just these because they're not really in depth enough, but you could work through these and use the textbook for extra questions as well. So if you'd rather not listen to anyone speak, just work through these, go to the textbook for those pages and occasionally watch a lesson or ask your tutor for help, then you can do it that way and just work through these resources in order. Completing the tests as you go along, of course, to release each study unit. So you need to finish study unit 1, complete the test, have it marked to release the interactive materials for study unit 2. Or you can still work through, because you can work through with the online lessons. Everything in order is already released, or you could just use the textbooks. If you wanted to just work through the online textbooks, that would be a harder route, but if you're that kind of person that can just learn from a textbook and just wants to work through the textbook in order, contacting your tutor whenever you need extra help, that's another route that you can do. We're not going to tell you must work in this way. You have to use the resources as best suits you. If you watch my online lessons, I link to the textbook and I also link to the online resources. So you can do it that way or not, depending. If you don't want to see me talking through everything, you can turn off the video and just click through the slides, and that would be the best way to get through everything. Okay, one more thing before I let you go, and that's how to book your exams. If you're starting in September and you're watching this live and you want to sit your exams next summer, you'll need to book those in the January. So if you're planning to sit the summer exams, book those in the January before the summer exam session. Find out about exam centres as soon as you start the course. So as soon as you start the course, find an exam centre that accepts private candidates. Make sure that they offer the qualification that you want to do GCSE maths. Find out how much it's going to cost, even if you don't commit to booking. I think it's an important thing to get out of the way and to know that you've definitely got an exam centre where you can sit the exam. Otherwise, you might waste a lot of time and effort and work. You will find somewhere. You might have to travel a little bit further. You can also sit exams in November if you're over 16 and I think you don't even have to have done GCSE maths ever before, but the November session is usually a resit session. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to find exam centres that offer the November sitting, but if your exam centre offers November, supposing you get close to May, June, you think, oh, I'm just not ready, I'm going to wait till November, you can. So you've got two points of entry there, May, June or November, and you don't need to be within your ICS Learn support period to sit the exam. So if you need to resit or do the exam again, you can do it as many times as you want. Just keep going for it until you get the grade you need. So first thing would be to find an exam centre that accepts private candidates. You can go to the Edexcel website, but I think the AQA website, I know your GCSE maths exam isn't with AQA, but their website is much better. So I'm going to give you a link here. Go to this link now, as soon as you can. It will have a list of all of the exam centres across the UK. If you're based overseas, then you might need to find an international school or travel to the UK or contact the British Council in your country to find out if they offer the GCSE exams. When you find your centre, they will say, what exam is it that you want to sit? And this is the information that you need to give them. Oh, I didn't change that last slide there, not to worry. So the exam board for this qualification that you're working towards is Edexcel. The full title is Pearson Edexcel GCSE 9-1 in Mathematics. Sometimes it says Level 1, Level 2, but that's not necessary. The most important thing is the specification code 1MA1. For GCSE Maths, you sit 3 papers, either 3 papers at foundation tier, which you can get grades 1 to 5, or 3 papers at higher tier, which can give you a grade 4. You can get a grade 3 if you don't do very well, up to a grade 9. You choose which tier you do, foundation or higher. So that's up to you, and you choose that. I suspect that the majority of our students who are aiming for the equivalent of a grade C will just do foundation because it's such a big course, and unless you already have a grade C level already when you're starting, that there's an awful lot of extra content to cover at higher tier. If you really want to push yourself and do higher and get a much better grade, that's completely up to you. But although you need I'll explain how the grading works in a minute, but I think for people aiming for a grade 4 or 5, which is equivalent to an grade C or B, I think foundation tier will probably be the easiest option. So you do 3 papers, 1F, 2F, and 3F for foundation, or 1H, 2H, and 3H. You can't do both because they're taking place at the same time on the same day. But so you choose one or the other, and you need to let the exam centre know. Possibly if you've booked foundation and then you get really brave that actually I want to do higher, or you book higher and then you say I want to do foundation, they'll probably let you change that once you've booked it. If you contact the exam centre, they should be able to let you know. So that's all the information you need to give the exam centre. They'll also ask for things like your candidate number if you've done exams before. But if you need any help with that, just let me know and I'll tell you how to fill in the booking form. So the way that the new GCSE maths is assessed is you have 3 exam papers. All 3 exam papers cover all content from the whole course, and they're all at the end of the course. It's a linear assessment, so it's not like one paper will just focus on statistics and one paper will focus on some other area, except for that one paper is non-calculator. They all cover everything. Each paper is out of 80 marks, and the way that they work out your final grade is they add together your total score from the 3 papers, 3 times 80, 240. So your total mark will be at 240, and that's what they use to work out your final grade. Higher tier, as you can see here, covers grades 4 to 9, and foundation tier covers grades 1 to 5. So the grade 4 and 5 content, in fact, those questions that target grades 4 and 5 will be on both the same, will be repeated on the paper. So the hardest questions on paper 1 foundation will be at the easiest questions, if you like, at the start of paper 1 higher. The best way to get a feel for the kinds of things that come up on the exams and how they're set up is to work through as many mock exam papers as you can prior to the exams, and I'll be helping with that, and I'm hoping to do some webinars towards the second half of next year where I'll just be working on past papers to show you the best ways to answer those. Here's an overview of the new grading structure, just in case you're wondering that they don't exactly match. So a grade 4 is equivalent to a grade C. A grade 5, now this is sometimes called a pass and this is sometimes called a good pass. A grade 5 is kind of somewhere between a B and C. It's more like an old GCSE grade B. 6 is like a high GCSE grade B. 7 and above is like an old A and above. If you want some more information about the new grading system, there's an article here. There's a page here. It's got videos and all sorts of things on the Edexcel website. And I'm bombarding you with links, but I think it's helpful to have them. So if you click on that in the chat box, if you're watching the WebEx version, open chat box, click on it. If you're watching the YouTube version, underneath, click on that, and that has some videos explaining how the new grading structure works. This is how the grades are distributed on the foundation tier paper. So about half the questions on the foundation tier paper are at around a grade 1 to 3 level, and then the hardest half of the questions are at about a grade 3 to 5. Grade 5 is quite hard for most people still, but you know, you don't need to answer everything right to get a good grade. And in fact, people that did the summer exams only needed 51%. It changes every year, but they only need 51% to get a grade 4 to pass the exam effectively. So that's how the grades are split up on the foundation tier papers. So you're doing the higher tier papers, half the questions will be at a grade 4 to 6. So the easiest question on the paper will already be at grade C level. So you kind of need to be at least a grade C level to do the higher tier paper. Otherwise, you might not be able to answer most of the questions. So half the questions grade 4, 5, 6, grade C to B. Half the questions target grade A, A star, and more than A star. Grade 9 is really A star star, if there is such a thing. Those of you that, some of you might have not, when I was at school, they didn't have A stars, it just stopped at A, but they keep adding. That's why they've gone to a numerical scale actually, so they can keep making it more and more difficult and keep adding numbers rather than lots of stars. Any questions about that? If you're interested, these are the grade boundaries for the first set of 91 exam papers. So these are based on marks out of 240. So if you had been aiming for a grade 4 here, you would have needed 122 out of 240, which is about 50%, to get a grade 4 on the 3 foundation tier papers. If you had been doing the higher tier papers, you would have needed 41. That's the total marks across all 3 papers, each of them out of 80, out of 240. Might be a bit mathematical for some of you at this stage. To get a grade 4, you need, if you got above 68, you would get grade 5. If you got above 96, you would get grade 6, and so on. Now, you cannot get these grades at foundation tier. They're just blanked out. The highest grade you can get is this. Now, please don't think that because you only need 41 on the higher tier, but you need 120 on the foundation, that it's easier to get the grade 4 equivalent to grade C at higher tier. It's not. The questions are much, much more difficult. So before you book your exam, please try past papers. Please try mock exam papers so that you know what sort of level you're at. In fact, even better, try the summer 2017 papers. Compare your marks to these grade boundaries, and then you know what grade you would have achieved had you sat those exams. So in summary, to get a grade 4 on the foundation tier this year was 51%. It might change, might be more next time, depending on how hard the exam is. To get a grade 5 at foundation tier, you would have needed about 66%. So it's a lot lower than it would have been in the past, but that's because the exams are much more difficult. So they just adjust the grade boundaries depending on how hard the exam is. If you had been doing the higher tier paper, you would only have needed 17% of the questions correct to get a grade 4. Try doing a higher tier paper, try one now, see if you can get 17% already, then you'll know. And then 28% to get a grade 5, which is grade B. I say grade B, lower grade B, to get that grade there. Okay, if you want to try some exam papers, go to your ICS Learn Student Community. This is where I'm putting them at the moment. Click on exam discussion. I think I showed you this earlier on my guided tour. Scroll down and then click on links to mock exam papers, and I've got loads of links in there and I'm updating it all the time. Links to the mock exam papers, links to the summer past papers. Let me just show you what you see if you go there. So these are all from Edexcel, so these are all the way the actual Edexcel exams will look when you do the real thing. These are the actual summer 2017 exams, so have a look at them and that will give you an idea of what you're working towards. I've put foundation ones at the top, scroll down to see the higher tier ones, and I've also linked to YouTube video solutions for some of the papers I find. So what would be really helpful would be to print out a paper, turn on the YouTube video solutions, or watch one of my webinars when I'll go through some of the solutions, and fill in the paper as you watch, and that way you'll learn how to answer the types of questions that come up in the exams. Okay, we're up to the 1 hour point, just over, and that's me finished. Does anyone have any questions before I log off and let you get on with starting the GCSE maths course? You've probably all fallen asleep or gone away. Was it too long? I'm sorry. If you're watching the recorded version, you can of course break it up a bit more. If you enjoyed this, if you found it helpful, if you enjoy any of the lessons that you're watching and you want to leave me a review, you can leave as many reviews as you want. So if you just want to review a particular lesson, I would really appreciate it. If you mention my name and write something nice, hopefully, then you can view that by going to the Trustpilot website. You just scroll along these stars. Fill it in full for 5 stars or so on. If you think there's some improvement needed, I won't cry too much if you only gave me 4 stars. But if you want to rate any of the lessons or any of the webinars that you've watched, then please just take a few moments to go on to Trustpilot and do that. Use that link there. Okay, that's everything from me really. I'm just about to stop. Here's all the contact details. Keep in touch. Good luck with your studies. Hope you feel a little bit better now about working through. Hope you've got a plan of action. Go away, download the study plan, start working through some of the lessons. I'll be doing a lesson on calculations and negative numbers in a couple of days on Thursday if you want to come to that live session. Hope to see you then, or you can watch the recording if you can't come to the live session, and good luck with everything. Bye.